All right. Okay, we're going to start. Y'all, I'm so excited to be here to talk about goal setting. This is kind of a topic that I actually really love to talk about, and some of what I'm going to share is probably different from what you've heard in the past. And so, anyway, just have an open mind as I'm talking to you. I would encourage you to make notes. I did throw together this PowerPoint super quickly. So there's not a lot of details on it, but I thought it would be helpful to have it on there, but it's not super detail oriented. So you're going to want to take notes. And of course we're recording as well. So you'll be able to look at that too. But I'm teaching this through a more piece-driven lens, which I don't think a lot of people do. Um, but here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they're inconsistent. Although that does play a role. Inconsistency definitely plays a role. But they fail because they never give their brain like a clear direction, which then leads to inconsistency. Okay. So a lot of people, they just never say, like, hey, this is what I'm building. And so today it's all about giving you that direction in a way that feels really like aligned and peaceful and doable. So whether you're a brand new builder, a seasoned leader, or anything in between, this actually is going to relate to you. So if that sounds good, you can drop a one in the comments. We'll get the chat going a little bit. But before we start, I do, like I said, I want you to know that you can ask questions. My name is Lori Hayes, by the way, and this is how I have built my business. So, like I said, it's probably going to be a little bit different than what you may have heard, but just have an open mind. But I'm big on giving our mind direction. I'm not big on traditional goal setting, which you'll kind of hear a little bit of that mixed in. Um, I have been pushed into claiming ranks in the past, and honestly, that happened twice, and it worked out both times. But interestingly enough, both times I hit the goal and then immediately fell backwards, and that happened the first time at Blue Diamond. I remember I was at an incentive trip, and Russell Butters came up to me and said, "Are you going to hit Blue Diamond in March?" And honestly, it wasn't even on my radar yet. I don't think I was ready. I didn't think it was going to be sustainable, but I felt this tremendous pressure to say yes. And I'll be honest with you, we did hit it that month, but we did not hit it again until the following October. And then after that, like we stayed Blue Diamond forever, years and years and years until we hit presidential. We never flew backwards. And so I'm gonna teach you how I have built my business the vast majority of time. And quite honestly, this will move you forward consistently. And I think that most people want that, right? So, all right, I have to remember to use my PowerPoint. Um, all right, I literally just put this PowerPoint together. I'm trying to figure out. Sorry. Okay. That may or may not be on the right slide. I should have written this down. Okay, so let's start with something that confuses a lot of people in our industry, numbers and goals. Okay. I'm not somebody who pushes like rigid goals, the kind that make you feel like you're falling behind or that if you don't, or that you're failing if you don't hit the exact number on the exact day, right? Like so many people put those kind of goals in place. And I have done that too. So, and that's typically how we're taught to do it. But I want you to understand that you have to know your numbers. That is a really important thing because your mind does need a very clear direction. Um, Clarity doesn't necessarily create pressure. Clarity creates a direction, and without it, you just kind of waffle around wandering, not really creating anything most of the time. So, some of the things that you really want to know is how many people do you want to enroll each month? And I'll be honest with you, like so many people, they just hope to enroll people each month. But when I ask them, I'm like, well, how many do you want to enroll? They're like, yeah, I don't know. I just want to enroll some people. Like there's not a clear direction. And so how many people do you want to enroll each month? How many builders do you want to identify in 2026? I actually like to shoot for one each month, but what is your track record? And you can figure out your track record by going back to 2025, seeing how many people you enrolled and how many builders you identified. Now, identifying and whether they became an actual builder or not are two different things, but identifying builders is really, really important and because they don't all become actual builders, right? Sometimes they become a sharer, sometimes they don't even become a sharer. And then sometimes they do become builders. But how many would you like to identify? And then you can kind of see what your track record is. If you enrolled on average of five every month and maybe you only have one builder out of the year, then that's probably a skill that you want to work on, right? How many conversations do you want to have in a given month? How many classes or experiences or one-on-ones do you want to hold in a given month, right? You really want these numbers, and they're not to judge yourself and they're not to put pressure on yourself. But if you don't know those numbers, you're kind of flying blind, right? And so, like I said earlier, like how many of you want to enroll each month and you just do some things and hope it happens? You haven't really decided. I am going to enroll at least three people each and every month. With that intention comes different actions than just posting and hoping, right? Like, does everybody agree on that? Um, and I want to make sure. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. Okay. Just trying to make sure it's on the opposite side of my screen. And so I want to make sure I see it. So this is where we don't want to turn these numbers into like rigid goals, stressful rigid goals. We want to pair them with promises. And this is really interesting because it's something that I didn't even know I was doing it when I did it. But a promise isn't something you make to your business. It's something that you actually make to yourself. And every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust with yourself. And that trust actually becomes confidence. And confident leaders really don't hesitate. They take action right away, right? And so this is not about being perfect at all. It's about deciding who you're going to be even on the days where motivation is low. And you will have days where motivation is low. Okay. And so when your actions match your identity, then consistency becomes way more natural and actually really easy. I have always been the queen of consistency and it's always been fairly easy for me. But I also typically keep promises to myself. And so I want to give you an example. So let's say your goal, right? You kind of decide, I would like to enroll on average of four people per month. And these are low numbers. I know some of you probably enroll more than this. But I do want to say this, and some of you maybe enroll less than this, but I built my whole business on enrolling somewhere around three to four per month. I certainly had months where I only had one or two. I certainly had months where I had six or seven, but it was super rare for me to get above that. Now, if you're a high enroller, I'm not telling you to not enroll, but I do think that there is a lot of value in being able to really build relationships with people. And when you're enrolling 15 or 20 people a month, it can be more challenging to build relationships with people. And it's in those relationships that you identify your builders. Like my intention from the very beginning was my classes helped me identify builders. Like, yes, I wanted to enroll. That was going to be always kind of part of it, right? I knew I would enroll people. That wasn't even a question for me, but identifying builders was very much an intention. And so the percentage of builders that I have enrolled is quite high, like really high. And so I built my team that way. And So there's nothing wrong with not being a super strong, like, many, many numbers, 10, 15, 20 people a month. It's okay as long as you're taking the time with the people that you do enroll. So, you want to partner the number with a promise. So let's say I want to enroll 4 people a month. Partner with that with a promise. I am a leader who consistently educates, invites, and follows up, and I use my whole heart when I do it. Like, that is a great promise. And that's something that you can write down and you can speak it. And I'll talk about that in a minute, actually. But, um, you know, identifying one builder this month, right? Let's say you decide, yes, I want to identify at least one builder each month. I am a leader who confidently shares our business opportunity, knowing that people are praying for what we offer. How awesome is that? Like, because that's true. Or I'm a leader who confidently shares our business opportunity because I believe in the impact that it creates, right? How powerful is that? And so these are promises. This is who you are becoming as you work towards those numbers each and every month. And when you combine the two, it just changes the way you look at things. The pressure doesn't feel so tremendous, and your brain gets clarity. It gets direction that it really is looking for that you may not have been giving it. So the numbers and the promises should be written down. They should be spoken. If you do any kind of visualization or imagination, like in the morning as you're speaking this, and I would speak it out loud, you can kind of see yourself interacting with people and being really confident in who you are as a doTERRA wellness advocate, right? And when you see yourself being that way and you've already spoken it, I promise you, you will move through the day differently when you get it started in such a positive space. And over time, as you repeat this daily, all of a sudden you're going to notice that you're actually more of that person who is confident in inviting people and following up and talking about the business opportunity, right? And so it's such a beautiful place to be. Um, and all of the sudden, even though you're like, yeah, I'm not that leader yet, it's kind of an affirmation, but it really is a promise to yourself. You're not saying anything that's outrageous or that is wildly untrue. You're really just saying, you know what, I promise to show up in a certain way. And we all can do that. We all can do that. If you already see yourself as a person who kind of keeps their promises to yourself, then this is probably going to be a pretty easy thing for you to do. If you find that you typically don't keep promises to yourself, then I would say like double down and really do this in a big way. Like be super consistent with it because it's going to change the way you move in your business. Most people don't actually lack discipline. They just lack like trust in themselves because they've broken promises too many times. And the reason why I know this is I have builders on my team who are incredibly disciplined in other areas of their life, but then when it comes to their business, not so much so. But they, their lack of direction. They typically don't set goals each month. So they don't have a clear course of direction. They don't have a clear intention for their business, like what we're talking about here. And which also creates a lack of confidence over time. And so then they don't also have the discipline, right? And so I promise you, you will create more discipline if you take this seriously. So, um, okay, let's go to the next part. Let's see. All right, questions for clarity. Um, Now that you understand direction and identity, like let's zoom out and look at your year. And so there are 4 questions that will create clarity faster than anything. And so number one is, what do you want to see in your business this year? And so you can think about things like, what kind of income would you like? Is there a particular rank that you would like to go for? And I will tell you, if you're an elite and you say diamond, That is a ginormous jump. It's totally doable, by the way. So I want to put that out there. But that does require a specific person. And so this is going to be very important to you if you're wanting to make a large jump, to become that person who promotes to diamond, right? And so these are things, and every rank, it's like a new person that reaches those different ranks. So think about income, rank, what kind of energy do you want to move in your business with, right? What kind of team culture do you want to create? What kind of momentum do you want to create? So those are just some of the things that you want to look at. Um, the second question is what worked this past year, right? So it's really important to celebrate what has worked this year. Were you consistent with classes? Did you have specific classes that worked really well? Did you do a great job posting content and education, right? Maybe you did some sampling and that worked out really well for you, or maybe you had like amazing wellness consults. Maybe you followed up like a pro. Whatever it is, like take a look and see, like maybe you identified one or two or three new builders, like celebrate that. And even think through if you did identify some builders, well, how did I identify those builders, right? What are some of the things that you did or how you showed up that either caused them to come to you or that you saw in them that encouraged you to speak to them about it? Like kind of write all this stuff down, because it's going to help you create a plan for the following year. And then question three is what didn't work. This is not as a beat down. Like this is not like bashing yourself or being judgmental. It's none of that. It's just like literally taking a look and seeing, okay, I wasn't really great at my follow-up this past year. Or I never talked about the business, right? Or I was extremely inconsistent. Oh my gosh, just kind of take a look and see like what didn't work this year. Um, and then question number four is what do you want to do differently as we move into 2026? And this one really creates kind of immediate direction. And so for a little exercise, I think it would be a really good idea for you to write three things down under each of those questions. And so I'm actually going to give you like 2 minutes to do that. Um, and don't stress, 2 minutes is not a long time, but I will say clarity loves speed. So don't overthink this. Whatever comes to mind first, just write it down. Like the less you overthink it, the better off you're going to be. So, um, anyway, I'm going to set a timer right now, and you have 2 minutes to write three things down under each question. You have about 30 seconds. Okay. All right. Hopefully you got some, at least a start on this like year overview. It's going to be such a help as you look forward into 2026. All right. Um, so let's talk about builders. This is really, I consider it kind of a non-negotiable. And so this is where your long-term stability comes from. If identifying builders is not part of your numbers, it absolutely must be. And so if this part scares you or feels really uncomfortable, that is absolutely normal, okay? Most leaders aren't afraid of the business. They're afraid of not knowing what to say or afraid of being misunderstood or judged. Or they're afraid if they are, if they're not successful enough, like, how can I even talk about the business? And it's kind of like the which comes first, the chicken and the egg. If you have to be successful to talk about the business, then you would never, ever talk about the business, right? And so it's important to share your vision and let them know what you see in them and build that relationship with them. So here's the reality. Customers create income, which is a beautiful thing. Builders is what actually creates freedom. And so if you want momentum and long-term stability and rank, you really need aligned builders. And so, like, who might your builders be? Okay. Um, let's see. Hold on one second. All right. So, who do you love working with? Who communicates with you? This is a big one. When I have a customer who asks me questions, who I send a text message to and they actually reply, that is a big one for me. I don't know. I feel like people don't communicate nearly as much as they used to or as well as they used to. So when I find somebody who communicates, I am like all over it. Um, you know, who already has some leadership qualities? Who is someone that you really like, that you would love to be around a little bit more often? Who uses the products consistently? I will say that that cannot be the only criteria because there's a lot of amazing product users, but they don't communicate worth a darn, or you actually probably wouldn't love working with them. So, who would thrive with some extra income as well, right? So these are some things that you can kind of look for. And so I'm also going to guess that from this past year, you have at least one person that you could talk to about the business. And so I want you to write that one person down. Who is it that you could talk to? Um, Not because you're pressuring them, but because you're actually inviting them into your vision. And I want to share with you what that means. So when I started with doTERRA, I had barely used well, I really hadn't used essential oils until I actually got my kit. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I hope I like these. 'Cause I had a really big belief in the business. I was one of those weird people that started because of the business. And I really prayed that I was going to like the product. Well, I immediately fell in love with the product, thank God. Um, but when I started talking about the business, because I mentioned to you that I started out the gate being very intentional about identifying builders, I knew doTERRA was special, and I had this hunch that I could create something really cool. And I shared the business opportunity with people. I had a couple people come to me, right, who trusted me, who said, "Oh, I know Lori, if she thinks this is a good thing, then it's probably a good thing." And they joined. That was only maybe two or three people. The rest of the people, I shared my vision with them and I asked them if they wanted to come along and let's do it together. And they did. I was not successful. When I had three and four builders already, I was an elite. I went to convention as an elite. And so I say that to you because what do you want to create and what do you see for your future? Just ask people to come and like, let's do it together. Let's create this thing together. doTERRA has a pretty cool mission. And, I fell in love with that as well. And so don't be afraid to share your own mission with people. Okay. And you can include doTERRA's mission in there too. Um, Also play to your strengths. And so this is not really anything to do necessarily with like strengths finders, okay? Um, what I want you to do is maybe simplify your business a little bit. You don't have to do everything. You don't even have to build the exact same way somebody else builds. I do think it's smart to learn from people who have created what you want to create, but then you get to put your own spin on it, right? And so, what do you love doing in your business? Are you like all about the education? Maybe you prefer one-on-ones. Maybe you prefer classes, right? Like maybe you like to talk to multiple people. That's how I am. I feel so much more comfortable in a group of 5 to 7 than I do in one-on-one. So I typically don't do a ton of one-on-ones. Maybe you really love the social media aspect of it or sharing stories. Oh, sharing stories is so important, whether it's sharing your own story or somebody else's story. Don't be afraid to share stories. They don't have to be your experiences. The first stories that I told, I mean, other than like, oh, lavender, healed my husband's cut on his hand super fast. It was other people's stories that I shared. My customers who came to me and said, "Oh my gosh, Deep Blue took away the pain in my knee that has been hurting me for 30 years." I shared that story like crazy. And so, what is it that you really enjoy doing? Maybe it's community building, maybe it's doing make and takes. I'll be honest with you, I don't like doing make and takes. So, guess what? I probably have only done, I don't know, four in my entire 12-year career with doTERRA because I don't like doing them. And that's okay. That's okay. Some people build their business with make and takes. That's great too. So, like think about really what you like to do. And then what are the things that you avoid? And it's more fear-based rather than a lack of skill-based. Okay. So if you avoid following up, that's kind of a crucial skill. It's typically more fear-based of what are they going to think of me? What if I bug them? What if they judge me? What if they don't like me anymore? Like, there's all those stories that we create, but the reality is that the people who follow up are the ones who get the enrollment and are the ones who also identify builders. Because let me tell you, for me personally, there have been some people, like in other companies that I buy from, I'm like, I would never join you in the business because they've been a terrible consultant for me. Like they either haven't gotten back to me, they haven't, answered my questions or whatever. And I'm like, if I was even remotely interested in this business, I would not do it with you. So it's really important to just like kind of hone in on some of these skills. Maybe you avoid the business conversation. Now's the time to like dig in and release that fear and start having those conversations. Maybe it's avoiding commitment. I wish I could tell you that you don't have to do some of these things that you avoid, but in reality, quite a few of them you might still have to do, right? But if you're like, I never want to teach an online class, well, you don't have to. But that probably means that you're either going to be teaching in-person classes or you're going to be doing one-on-ones or doing booths or like you got to get in front of people somehow. So if you don't want to do online classes, well, how are you going to get in front of people, right? So you can pick and choose, but the end result needs to still be there, right? And I promise you, the more you do something, the fear goes away. The fear goes away. I promise you that. All right, so for your last little exercise, on your paper, like you can just take a piece of paper and on one side put things that fuel you, what things that give you energy in your business, and drain activities, things that you avoid. Um, and and then you can ask yourself, okay, like how can I reach my numbers, right, that we talked about in the beginning, by doubling down on some of the activities that light me up, right? That fuel me. And for my drain activities, is there a way to simplify? Is there a way to systemize? Like, can I get some support? Can I overcome my fear and do a few of the things? Especially if they're impactful, right? Like following up, like that's really, really impactful. And so consistency comes when things feel more natural rather than forced. And I will tell you that sometimes it feels forced in the beginning. I can remember my first classes. Oh my gosh. Like I just was praying to get through them. But then after I'd done four or five of them, it's like, okay, you know, it started feeling much easier, right? And so let's do like a quick recap here because I know I've gone a little bit over time. Um, this is really kind of your formula. So first you want to create that vision. What do you want to see in your business, right? And then you want to give your brain some direction. This is where you're going to take a look at those numbers. You know, how many conversations, how many builders, how many classes? Like keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. And then that's where you're going to add the promise to that. Who are you becoming? Who are you becoming? I am a leader who follows up daily or easily, or, I am a leader because I boldly share the business because I know the impact that it will create for them and for me, right? Like that's powerful. If you've sometimes we have to remind ourselves of this. Like every time we share the business opportunity, there is a chance for impact to be made. I am super grateful I have my business. I don't know about you, but I'm super grateful I have my business. And even though it doesn't always go as planned, I'm still super grateful for my business. I'm a leader who stays consistent with intention and peace and purpose. Like that's where you're gonna add in, right, the promise. And then you're just gonna create a plan of like super small, simple, repeatable actions, right? And so an example could be maybe you know, at the end of the day, like you're going to host a minimum of this, two classes a month or three classes a month, or um, I'm a big timer person. And so if you're like, okay, I want to become good at following up, I highly recommend doing your follow-ups in maybe like either one increment or two time increments. So let's say you're like, okay, I have time on Monday evening at 7 p.m. to do follow-ups. Set a timer for 30 minutes and be prepared and do all your follow-ups all at one time. Do as many as you can, whether it's texting, whether it's calling, whether it's whatever, emailing, whatever it is that you choose to do. Um, Messenger, set a timer for 30 minutes and work for the whole 30 minutes. And then when the timer goes off, stop. And that way, because sometimes people will just like they'll get going and then they won't go have, read their kid their bedtime story or, they told their husband it was going to be 30 minutes and an hour and a half they're later they're still working and the husband gets angry and he starts to resent your business. Like set a timer so you don't get sucked in. But let me tell you that 30 minutes, the whole time is spent on following up. And I guarantee you, you will get 10 times more work done in that 30 minutes than you ever could in an hour and a half of, just willy-nilly time. Um, maybe share your story, talk about the business at least once or twice this week, right? Maybe in your stories on Facebook, maybe in a class, maybe on a post, like, but just commit to talking about the business. Um, there's a quote, and I don't know who said it, but it's you don't rise to the level of your goals, you actually rise to the level of your habits. And when you know your numbers, you have an intention each month and you put a promise behind it, you are creating really powerful habits. And so your last challenge, this is a 72-hour challenge. Share your vision for 2026 in the next 72 hours with one person. Like find one person to share your vision with and ask them to come along with you. How exciting will that be? And if you do that, I would really love for you to message me and tell me about it. Invite one person to learn about the business. It might be the same person that you just shared your vision with, right? Or it might be somebody completely different. And then take one aligned action that reflects the leader that you're becoming. That reflects the leader that you're becoming. And that's really kind of part of those promises, right? And so that is how you turn clarity into momentum. Our brain wants a direction, and you must give it one. You cannot just start each month with a clean slate, do some posts, have a class, and just pray like heck that you're going to have enrollments. Like you need to be very intentional. When you have that class with that intention, you're going to make sure that you invite properly, right? Like if you just have a class to have a class because you said you would have a class, that is going to do zero for you. But if you know that that class is going to help bring in the other intention you set of enrolling three people this month, well, now that class, there's more value in there, right? And so then you're gonna take more time in how you invite people to it, how you follow up, how you remind, right? You got to do all those things with a class. Like you have to do all of those things in order to get people there, especially nowadays. Oh my gosh. I, even myself, I can't hardly remember what I'm supposed to do. Like, in the next 2 hours, I'm like, I have to look at my calendar and everything. Well, imagine you send a text message. Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you at my house tonight. Feel free to park in the driveway or come right on in. Don't worry about knocking. Or if that's like a really nice reminder that's telling them to do something, but it doesn't feel like a reminder because you're telling them to do something like, hey, you can park on the street, or hey, whatever. Like, you got to do those things. So, all right. Remember, numbers direct your brain. Are there any questions? Um, I'm so excited about this. If you remember nothing else, just remember that numbers are going to direct your brain and promises are going to shape who you become. And that really creates the actions that create the reality. So if you don't remember anything else, like at least try to remember that. Your business is going to follow the direction you give it. And so be clear with your direction, right? Okay. All right. You guys, any questions? I love talking about goal setting. This is a really different way to think about goals. And I hope it resonated with you guys. I know it's a little bit different from what most people teach, but it's how I've done it. And I've been very successful doing it that way. So